and welcome to Mirador Television. We are the biggest little TV in the world, based in Lewes, East Sussex in England. Our aim is to entertain and to spice things up a little. We will also keep an eye on the local politics, because let's face it, someone has to. Our programs range from stories about the local people to stories about people from all the way across the pond. Brought to you by our wonderful colleagues in New York. So why not sit back, relax with your favourite cuppa, or maybe your favourite tipple, and enjoy. This is Mirador Television.
Good morning. And it's the 15th of the month, halfway through April already. And probably as the Queen once said, annus horribilis, probably is not continuing, but it's not disappearing at a great rate of knots either. The number of infections from COVID is dropping dramatically, but that's in the UK, and the rest of the continent seems to be in a spot of bother still. And as a consequence, we have to brace ourselves for a wash up on the shores. And so it's better to accept what we're getting gratefully and hope for things to improve. But life does carry on despite the pandemic. And of course, the usual sort of things are beginning to surface. First of all, David Cameron is involved in a money scandal. He's not accused of putting money into pockets, but what he is accused of doing is using undue influence to get contracts for a company which has since gone bust. And that company is quite important because it supports the steel industry. And the steel industry here has at least, or the company that it supported has at least 5,000 jobs at stake. Our good friend Gary Toyton is there, watching as usual, as faithful. I'm not sure he's watching, but he always lets me know when he's finished work, because he is a faithful viewer when he hasn't got a day off. Then, of course, the thing that rolls on and on and on is the question of the royals, and I think that it's interesting that we should keep an eye on it, because after all, it is all about the head of state. Never mind whether you're pro-royalty or anti-royalty, or you like the Queen or you don't, or you like Philip or whatever. That's quite beside the point. The fact is that this is our head of state in the most stable government anywhere in the world. So let's not get too upset when they start to play silly buggers. And now it's a question of Andrew wanted to be a full admiral, and he hadn't been appointed a full admiral. Harry couldn't wear any uniform because he handed in all his notice to all these military things, and the Queen said, "Yes, thank you very much, Harry. If you're going to cause the firm, as they call it, a problem, you can't be a soldier anymore." So he couldn't wear his uniform. So it's a master of compromise. You've got to admire Queen Elizabeth. You really do, because she looks at a problem and instead of saying, "Oh well, it's protocol, etc., etc." What she does is she turns around and says, "Let's find a solution." Right? None of us will wear military uniform, so they're all going to go in mufti, in civvies, and what a good way of solving the issue. But I thought, is social media and the media, if you like, has been full of what Philip was all about, and so on and so forth. I had some personal experience with him. And when I say personal, he didn't come up to me and shake my hand and say, "Keith, old boy, how are you?" But I did cover 2 royal tours. And on the first one, I was covering an opening of Vancouver City Hall, and he was breaking a bottle of champagne or whatever on it. And in those days, you had tape recorders. They weren't terribly large; they were coming down in size, but you had a little battery of clicky things. So I clicked to record and hit the play button. So there's a burst of sound. And I thought nobody had noticed. I was so quick to turn it off. Later, we were visiting, following him on some sort of tour of I don't know, this Boy Scouts or a youth group or whatever, who were cooking sausages. And you are warned in the briefing not to get too close to royalty. I mean, not only for safety matters, but if their tummy gurgles or they pass wind, the royals don't. So you must make sure that you don't record things like that to break the mystique. And I got just a little bit too close, and he rounded on me, and then he looked and he said, "Oh, that's all right. Yours is the machine that exploded earlier, isn't it?" And I have to say, those are in early days of my career, and I was a bit starstruck by the fact that here I was near to Prince Philip, and there was a press conference, and he obviously had it sunk into his mind. Here's somebody who's I've thought about simply because of the gaffes that he's made. And I was so tongue-tied, I couldn't ask any questions. Thank God it was a press conference, and there were others who were quite prepared to. Um, and then later, we watched him leave from Vancouver International Airport. And whatever the Queen's flight was, it wasn't a regular aircraft. I suppose it was one used by the RAF. And I think that it was a prop. It wasn't a jet. At least it would have been, it was a turbojet. And he loved to fly. And sure enough, he waved to the crowds and so on and so forth. Up he went up the stairs. And the next thing we knew is he was waving from the cockpit in the left-hand seat, the left-hand seat being the one that the pilot, the captain, fills. So there he was playing with his toy, uh, taking the aircraft out to the runway, and away they went, and he didn't crash the damn thing. So I've had my own little spats with him. Later on, he came back with the Queen for another royal tour, and this time I got along much better with him, because by that time I'd become a bit of a hardened journalist. I wasn't a cub reporter anymore, doing all these wonderful things. So let's just remind ourselves about him. Now, that was, oh, hang on, better come back to you. That was courtesy of the BBC, who have got all the wonderful things that they're able to do. Um, as usual, I'm fiddling around with damn things because why I have no idea that once the children are let loose with things, I just wanted to check that we are on the air, and indeed we are, and that's a bit satisfying. Now, a couple of things that I'm going to go through. Well, first of all, let's finish off with the news. Because the reason I showed that is because of this little flurry about skirts and military uniforms. But there are two or three other things that we've been following. Things seem to be calming down a little in Northern Ireland, and it seems the authorities have brought forward some of their benchmarks for when they can actually go back to school and do various things that we are doing over here. And that was one of the tensions. Brexit, of course. I think that Boris is now aware that it's all very well to sit in the corridors of power and play chess with international affairs. But it ain't quite as easy when the people say, we don't like what you've done, boss. What are you going to do about it? Then the reality is you have to come down and try and resolve it. Oh boy, do I know that. After a lifetime in this business. So you should know it too. But the other thing is that they're much more serious. And that I think is terribly worrying is this. And the Russian troops are still massing on the border. But at long last, our leaders began to realize that Putin is, many people say that he's a good president, and he probably is, but he's unpredictable. You never know whether he's going to put stuff onto the borders to actually go across them and start a war, or just as a bit of saber rattling. And the experts say that it was a standoff with America, and that Joe Biden blinked first and phoned and promised long talks about the issue in a couple of months' time if he would put this pistol back in his holster. Well, apparently, I don't blame him. Putin has said, pistol back in the holster, I'll hold off from crossing the border. And as I've said several times, I know that area quite well. And it is a tinderbox because, sometimes, once again, our leaders will do things and they don't think them through. The EU went on a privatization crusade a few years ago. Everything had to be privatized. Instead of taking it easy, there were more teams that went in to help privatize things in various parts of the world than you could shake a stick at. And it's all very well, privatization is a difficult thing. But they rushed it all through. And in that part of Ukraine, which is Russian speaking, by the way, they speak Russian there. And part of the issue is the privatization of their steel mills and their coal mines. And the steel mill there employed 30,000 people until the EU and the Ukrainian government sold it. And of course, in privatization, the first thing you do is you get rid of people when you're trying hard to make money and to modernize things. And out of the 30,000 people, 20,000 were made redundant. And the same thing at the coal mine. So you've got Lugansk, which is where the missile was fired that brought down the Malaysian airliner, is in Lugansk. They're Russian speaking. They have a tendency to think of the Russian Federation rather than the EU or the rest of Ukraine being their natural home. And we took all their jobs away. And you can understand that they are very sympathetic to Russia. Many of them will say openly, we would much prefer to go back and be under Russian domain. So when he puts his rockets and his troops on the border, he's got a certain sympathy with the Ukraine or from that section of Ukraine. And using that sympathy is easy for somebody who is a bit of an adventurer. Don't we all know it? So that needs watching. Although it doesn't look as if we're going to go to war today, anyway. But I'm going to watch it because I do know the area. I do well. I also know. I've spent a lot of time in Russia. Call me an expert? No, but I'm on the ground and I talk to people. And one of my gracious hosts was a nuclear sub commander. And he said one day we were having dinner in his lovely Dasha south of Moscow. We were able, because of a wonderful summer, we were able to eat outside, and we started to talk about nuclear subs. And he said, you know, the Russian Navy doesn't know what it's doing, and the American Navy doesn't know what it's doing. And it's a surprise to me that we haven't crashed two subs and started a nuclear war. That's the real worry: is do they know what they're doing, let alone whether they've got a strategic plan. That's the world. I mean, that is the real world. And I'm talking to people who are at the coalface, whereas our diplomats tend to talk to diplomats who 9 times out of 10 haven't a clue what it's all about. Anyway, that's the situation, and I think we'll keep an eye on it. Unfortunately, Snoopy got in the way this morning, and I don't have a weather forecast that is put together. But let me tell you that we went from -1 this morning to 11 degrees, and it's going to be sunny for most of the day with a light breeze. But watch out this evening because there's likely to be some rain coming in, and it'll be a cloudy night as opposed to the clear nights that we've had recently. So towards tea time, think about carrying a Macintosh or what do we call those things now? Not a pucker, a hacker, or a. Anyway, one of those short little raincoats. Now, I think that because I am the purveyor of gloom and doom, it's 7:52. Why don't we take a look at Susan Harris's pictures again, which always lift the gloom because it reminds us of where we actually live and the wonderful things. But Stephen Catlin is keeping an eye on movement at Lewis District Council because it looks as if there may be later in the week some movement in the North Street Quarter, which has been a controversial development for God knows how many years. And each council, when they come in, are faced with the problem of doing something and taking it forward, and they all fail. But at least there's some attempt, apparently, and we can expect some announcement about it later in the week. So that's broadly the local news. But let's have a look at what Susan is up to, because I love her little pictures. 30 years I've been in Lewis, and I'm always amazed that there are places that I've never been. Just beautiful and interesting. I get a big kick out of that one. And of course, we're supposed to be able to get a pint of Harvey's. I haven't found a pub open yet. Well, there we are, Susan's pictures. Now, at the beginning of each program at the moment, we have one of our former stars, Annie Verrill, who still introduces it. A spectacular talent. And I've said, and I actually spoke to somebody yesterday and said, why don't we get our finger out and try to realize that Lewis turns out exceptional television talent? I know what it is. And there's Lalada Richardson and Sophie Harris, and along with Annie, and they are brilliant broadcasters. Because nobody in London is going to look, and I think those girls are all got families and things to do that they wouldn't be interested anyway. But they are superb talents, and we've got another one now who is coming along, is Terry, and she's a bit stiff on this very first broadcast, but when she joined me yesterday for a chat, she loosened up, and I think that we found even another star. So her full program will be on later today. But here's Terry, just to tell you a little bit about herself.
Headington. Welcome to my new show called Terry's Pick and Mix. Now today I'm going to focus on art, and I'm delighted to welcome my guest called Anna MacLeod, a local artist from Lewes. Before we begin, how long have you lived in Lewes, Anna?
I was not born, but I was definitely bred in Lewes. I moved here with my parents, and my mother has a long association with Lewes. I moved here when I was, I think, 5, and after a short break of 40 years following university, I'm back again, and I've been here for now nearly 7 years again. And I've gone all the way to living in the house next door to the one I was brought up in.
Wow.
Well, there we are. Hang on. Oh, we're back to me. Yeah. So that's 4 outstanding ladies that we found. And it's rare that you find one in something like Sussex. And here from Lewes, we've got 4. And I just wish I could coax them all back, because I don't care for myself, but for a viewer of Mirador television, it's always a pleasure for them to be able to see professionals. And we've got 4 lovely ladies lurking. And at one time, I could blink my eyes and sort of say, will you come back? And nowadays, they look at me as if I'm mad. I don't blame them in the least. I put something up on social media the other day. I found a photograph. I couldn't believe how ugly I am. But then again, perhaps I always was. It wasn't one of those people that was actually born an Adonis. Okay. Now, let's I would like to actually be serious again, because this is day 1 or day 2 of me being homeless. And yesterday I said I was terrified. Okay, so I've deliberately done it a little bit just to once again, as I said about the Russians and about Prince Philip, is I'm able to, because of my long history in media, I talk to people on the ground, so I get a different perspective. Doesn't matter what the politicians are rabbiting on about. I get a different perspective, and I am absolutely appalled that the politicians and also our community talk about the homeless, talk about the elderly, and talk about the mentally ill, just with almost as if, as long as I actually drop a pound of butter in the food bank, that's okay. Well done. Nobody bothers to get to understand these people. And you see it all the time. Now, yesterday, after I'd done the piece, I bumped into a lady. I won't mention her just because I don't want to embarrass her, but I bumped into a lady that I've known for a long time. She's just a lovely lady. She's got 2 delightful children who were very talented. A lovely husband who's equally as talented, and yet probably one of the quietest and most modest of men that I've ever met. I was just sitting reading the newspaper. I'd go down to the precinct and read it just to get out in the fresh air. And she came, and I heard this voice say, "Hello, Keith." And she came and she sat, and we had a chat. And she said, "I was homeless for 3 weeks. And she said, it's a terrifying thing. People say, well, it was only for 3 weeks, you could put up with it. Well, I'm not going to put up with it for 3 weeks, I'll tell you. But as she said, at the time, you don't know. You don't know what the end of anything is. It could last for a lifetime. But also, I've had dealings, first-hand dealings with people who are mentally ill. And the coppers have said to me, we hate it because we're not qualified to handle mentally ill people. And yet, if a mentally ill person just goes off the rails a little bit, who do they call? Us. And then we have to deal with it. And we're not properly trained for it. And when it comes to the elderly, I get more and more evidence that really is help the elderly. What the hell do they mean? I have no idea what they mean. Because, every time you turn around, when you get to the stately age that I am, I'm not as old as the Duke of Edinburgh. I may look at it, I'm not. But, it's amazing that the things that are close to you. And then they offer you a little nice tipple, if you like. Oh, yeah, Annie used that word this morning, didn't she? Tipple, yeah, a nice tipple. I love a nice tipple. And they give you the nice tipple of a free license so you can watch television. And then what do? Aha! They take it away. Yeah, but we help the elderly. And then the financial sector they are behaving in the most disgusting way. Now, not the people at the coalface. If you talk to people in the bank or whatever, they're delightful. But they have absolutely no authority, none whatsoever, because the bloody computer is running it. And so it doesn't matter day in, day out. It doesn't matter whether it's a holiday or a Sunday or whatever. If the computer decides it's going to send you a nasty letter or it's going to send you a nasty text, it does it. And the galling thing is that you can't reply. It's a no reply. So if you want to call back and say, what the hell do you think you're up to? You can't. And that to me is the banking sector. And I mean, I have big arguments with Paul Fowle, who unfortunately is still a bit poorly. So we've decided that perhaps Monday should be the day that he comes back, and not today or tomorrow. But he's a financier, but he's also a copper, or ex-copper. And we are able to have really, really good discussions off screen because we yell at one another. The theme of this television station is, conflict. Stories are all about conflict, and we make sure that our presenters are about conflict. And quite often we get do you really dislike each other? We never tell. Actually, sometimes it's reality. But we are really, as a society, not at all aware of the things that we think that we're supporting and that is making us civilized. And I said on one of my little blogs yesterday, if I don't get 50 replies to this or 50 views, then I'm going to give up, because society is everything that I've said it is. It's not caring. I don't really believe that. I think we just don't understand. We don't know. And because governments are so very, very bad at the moment with their communication techniques, they're not telling us. 12.3 billion. 12.3 billion. And that was the 2019 figure for mental health. Where the hell does it go? I see no evidence of it. And once again, I get my fingers dirty. I've been into the Eastbourne mental section, or whatever we're not supposed to call it anymore, at the hospital down there. It's appalling. I've talked to some of the psychiatrists. They need a psychiatrist more than we do. And yet here we hear day in, day out that COVID is increasing the number of people with mental illness. Well, if it is, I hope that they're not expecting help from the state, because it ain't there at the moment. Oh, there's lots of money sloshing around, but it's not. And I got very, very upset about it yesterday. And I really laid out in no uncertain terms my feelings about it, and the things that I think. You don't have to agree with me. I've never asked people to agree with me, but debate with me, for God's sake. Because if you just go on in your own little way, in your own little world, and think that nothing is going to change, I think you're the ones in for a shock once we're really out of lockdown. There you are, the mouth that roars. But I haven't reached 50 views. Well, I don't know whether I have or I haven't, because we only get a weekly report. But some key people who follow us, I mean, actually, Gary Toynton is back. He sent a little email, said, "Hey, you just said I wasn't watching." I am. So we know he's watching. But it's amazing. I just don't understand how figures are developed, and the viewers' ratings designed, because all sorts of people have sent me emails and so on and so forth, and they're patently watching the program, and yet they never show up in any survey or whatever. So I know that there are a number of people, and they are people who would listen to the debate. Oh, just about everybody who knows me knows that I'm absolutely, completely, utterly mad. But not in the sense, I don't think that I need to be taken I can be taken to into any sort of care for the mentally ill. And I'm giggling a little, but I'm not giggling about the fact. And it's a serious social issue. And I think we're going to have more serious social issues. The mothers that have been locked up with the kids for 6 months or a year. I spoke to a friend in Northern Ireland. First of all, I spoke to the husband, and he said, "Well, Frankie." Then she comes on and she says, "Well, my husband." They're driving one another nuts, and it's not nice. The thing that I found difficult was living alone, because I've always been a very sociable person. I don't mind living alone. I can look after myself all right. But I like to talk. I like to chat. I like to discuss things. And I haven't had that opportunity. So as a consequence, we've got a problem there with our society because of what's happened with COVID. And it's one that is going to need sorting out. And 12.2 billion pounds isn't going to do it. It's only when society understands that there is a problem and is sympathetic to it and tries to help it. So I would say to you, the homeless, the guy in the sleeping bag. And of course, there's always a popular story is, well, they sit there and they take some money and then they go back to their luxury flat in Brighton. Well, there's some truth to that. Of course, there are con artists. But then how many emails have you got from con artists what did I get 2 days ago? Is I'm going to be heavily fined by DVLA because I haven't licensed my vehicle. I haven't got a vehicle. If I tapped into that, somebody somewhere would have tried to get my bank account details. Mind you, I'm very lucky there too. I haven't got any money in the bank account. So they're on a loser with me. But there are big articles in the newspapers now looking into the fact that the scam artists have really been going and getting us into all sorts of trouble. And that actually, with older people, is a problem. Okay. I was going to replay yesterday's program today. But I really do think that as a society, we've got to get our act together. We've got to be able to look at things and say, let's have some understanding. Somebody who is even just slightly mentally ill goes into Waitrose, or Lidl or Aldi or Tesco or whatever. I'm not just picking on Waitrose. And if they cause a problem, what happens is security are called, they're thrown onto the streets and they're told not to come back. Oh, that handled it, isn't it? Yeah, that's a good solution. Yeah. They're much better off, those mentally ill people, for being dealt with that way. That'll help them. That'll help them to get better. Oh, give me strength. I'm much happier about ranting and raving this morning than I was yesterday, because actually I faced a night without anywhere to go. Once again, not strictly true. In fact, In fact, I think I pissed a few people off because they tried to find solutions. The trouble is, it wasn't the solution that I wanted. And they are lovely, lovely people that I'm blessed. But in many ways, I did want to know what it was like being faced with nowhere to go. And it's terrifying. It's horrifying. And there are so many people that I know personally. I've never thought about it that way before. It's a real eye-opener for me. I don't suppose many of you are going to go sleep on the streets for a night just to find out. But to tell you, don't do it because you don't want to do it. Mentally, it's a strain, even though I know that I've got a safety net, even though I know that I'm not going to be there forever. I might just try and do one or two more nights. Shall I? Who knows? But the fact of the matter is that it is a problem that we've got to address. And because I was homeless and elderly, what did I have to help me yesterday? Because I am aged and I've got an underlying condition and all the rest of the things that we just trot out. Trite. Well, I've got all those things and there's no help there at all. It's crazy. You know, we're a nation of PR, and we're not really. It's not PR; it's spin, because public relations is actually reflecting what a country or a company or a person or whatever organization is. Not spin and trying to make them look good when they're not. So, what sort of society will we become? We're full of spin. We keep on rushing around saying how we're helping those in need, and we're not. Okay, the trolls haven't got to me yet, but I suppose they will. Oh, enough of that, enough of that, enough of that. I think perhaps what we should do is we should, what's the time? Oh, it's 11 minutes past 8 o'clock. The night was a long night, the morning is a short morning. So it looks to me as if I'm shouted out. But I will say, I have to go and check on my cat. It's not my cat. It's an alley cat. It was a survivor. But she's probably 11 or 12 now. And because I am a bit sensitive when it comes to animals, I fed the cat. And now the cat is homeless again because I'm homeless. And she was getting to the point where she was getting quite affectionate. And I think that she felt that perhaps her days, though numbered, were okay. And suddenly I've abandoned her, and I've got a real conscience about that. I have a conscience about abandoning people and people abandoning me and so on and so forth. Surely we're all better than that. Anyway, I don't care. I've got to go around and just check on the cat at some stage. Got to check on the cat at some stage. Oh well, okay. Let's just remember that some of the people that actually some now that we're back, let's look at some of the people that are waiting to serve you.
My name's Yad and welcome to my shop, Bell & Co. We specialise in mid-century furniture, 50s, 60s and 70s mainly. One of our main ethoses here is very much encouraging people to look at older pieces of furniture rather than buying new or buying flat pack. We're very much environmentally based in trying to encourage people to reuse and reimagine objects, and so we spend a lot of time restoring pieces, reupholstering pieces and bring them back to life generally. They're just fantastic to look at and they're just beautiful items at really, really affordable prices.
Do not buy that typewriter. I've got my eye on that. I mean, it's a fairly modern one. In the first newsroom that I walked in, we had one of those sit up and beg things, the thing that you see in a 1920s movie, like this. one very good friend who worked for me, a chap called George Wilson. God bless him, and George was an adventurer as well. Well, one Christmas, he had a visit to some Polish friends who had this very special Polish brandy. And when he came back to work, he was paralytic, and he sat with his hands poised over the typewriter like this, without any movement whatsoever, completely and utterly useless. And we lifted him up and moved him, sat him at the back of the newsroom, and somebody else took over his shift. And I'll always remember George with his fingers poised over that typewriter. Of course, most of it don't know what a typewriter is now, a keyboard and so on and so forth, and computers, and it's it's very convenient. And hammering away at an old keyboard. But it's always nice to know that those things existed in many years ago, and that some of us were, yes, privileged to use these things. Because if you haven't, you don't appreciate the technology of the time. A bit long before computers, here were typewriters, and some of them started to become mechanical. Wow. Anyway, let's take another look at
from Capturing Tales, and we've been open here for about 2.5 years. We specialise in focaccia genovese, which is this focaccia, like that. And my mum and I went to Italy, to Genova, to learn to make focaccia, which is an ancient art. Then we do little salad pots, sauces, fresh pasta, stuff to take home and cook. We try to get locally to support other local businesses. We have a few cocktails in bottles, which is why we're called Catcher and Tails. We're open 6 days a week, Monday to Saturday, to come by and see us anytime.
Did she say cocktails? I mean, that's a magic word to me. I lived through lived through in the 1960s and the 1970s. I was living in North America, and cocktails were the thing. Esquire magazine, Playboy, all put out cocktail books, and I remember. Particularly at university, we actually got hold of these cocktail books so that if we decided to have a party, we got an excuse, because it gave you 365 excuses to have a party. And the one that always appealed to me was Jiffy the Giraffe's birthday. I've had more cocktail parties for Jiffy the Giraffe, God bless it, and I don't think it'd ever be able to thank me, because it didn't know that we were celebrating his birthday. And I think he was at the Chicago Zoo or something, Jiffy. So that's how daft we were back then. That shop is a lovely little shop at the bottom of Station Street, and it's worth popping into. I personally am just totally unadventurous when it comes to food. Because I've traveled the world, I'll eat anything. But when it comes to my choices, I'm almost sort of meat and two veg. And I am dull. I'm dull, and I always have to finish my meal with ice cream. I look at all these wonderful things on the menu. Exotic puds and things. And can I have it? No, I've got to have ice cream. It's a strong pull, and I would imagine, because I started to talk to somebody yesterday about the war, and when I say the war, I mean World War II, and they look at me blankly, because they have no idea which war I'm talking about, because it is to them way back in history. Once again, I experienced the war. Okay, I was a little boy, but and actually I would go to the butcher's, and because meat was rationed, the butcher would say, "You can have an extra sausage if you'll sing for me." I used to sing, "You are my sunshine," and I got an extra sausage for it. And in those days, the butcher's shops had sawdust on the floor, much the same as for a long time the butcher known fondly here as Porky Pryor it had on his floor, and very good meat he has too. But anyway, we're getting away from the topic. So one more to go, I think.
Roundabout has been going for 35 years. We're a dress agency, so what we do is we sell on behalf of people. The customer gets 50% of the price and we take 50%. The online shop is roundaboutlewis.com. I try and update it, daily when things come in. We're open Tuesday to Saturday, 9:30 till 4:30. So if you're looking for gifts or a dress for yourself, why not visit?
See, them's computers for you. I commanded it to come back to me, and it didn't. It showed that little sting at the end. Anyway, it's now 21 minutes past 8, and we're rapidly coming to the end of a show. Let me say that we're a bit rough around the edges still, but strangely enough, rough around the edges seems to be appealing, because our figures are rising, even though we're not doing a proper stream, that our programs are hit and miss, but we kept going. We never closed. And I'm glad that we're here and things are starting to come together. And we're actually got some new programs in the pipeline which we're developing. The trouble is that they all need a bit of cash, and cash is hard to come by at the moment. But bit by bit, it's dribbling in so that we can get rid of any debt that we've got from the 3 months of lockdown, and we can forge ahead and start to develop programs. But watch for our virtual pub, and watch for. We're going to do a series, although we haven't talked to the estate agent there yet, called The Village, the day-to-day life of the village of Firle, which of course is a tied village. It belongs to Lord Gage. And as a consequence, we have to get permission, obviously, to go and talk to his people. Well, we don't have to, but I mean, it's not that sort of journalism. It is because it is a tied village. It's got a blacksmith. It's got its own little brewery. It's got its cricket team, which actually got to the Oval a couple of years or so ago, I think. It's got a mad vicar. It's got a church that goes back to pre-Norman times. It's got a beacon, so that if the Spanish ever decide to invade again, we can light a beacon and let everybody know. It's a lovely, lovely little village. And here's something else that is of interest. If your name is Verrill, and there are many, many Verrills that have been racecourse owners, there have been leading businessmen, there have been all sorts of Verrills, and they all come from Firle, or they all stem from Firle. If your name is Verrill, well, I suppose if you're married, but anybody whose name is basic name is Verrill, you come from Firle, the village of Firle. That's where the name emanates, and it comes from nowhere else. So there's another nice little thing. So if you hear the name Verrill, which you will quite often in Lewis society and Lewis history, that's where they all came from. This lovely village, and it is a beautiful, beautiful village. So we're going to do a day-to-day. Well, not day-to-day, a week to week, what goes on in the village of Firle. We've got all sorts of good ideas. And let me tell you that Leslie's people will, the moment that we've decided how we can do it, Leslie's people will be back. And I saw Leslie yesterday. She's the artist that paints things like that, right? The picture behind me, and she does that with all sorts of famous people, and then odds and sods like me, and she charges for it, but she doesn't keep a penny herself. She puts it to cancer research, and if you want one done of yourself, you can. She was yesterday. She got started again in the window of Cancer Research UK, which is at the bottom of School Hill, if you know Lewis at all, and it's opened up, and there is Leslie Nora Hills painting away. Just a lovely and charming lady. And we have in the past highlighted her pictures by bringing to life the people that she has painted. So we hope to get that started again. Where are we? 25. So there are new things and special things coming, and it's not just myself and Paul Miles rabbiting on. Paul Miles. Hello, Paul. Sometimes he taps in. Paul is has been a very well-known figure. Oh, he was born and raised in Lewis, and now he's gone and charged off to the West Country. I think Falmouth, if I'm not mistaken. And I've known him for so long and so well, but what I meant was Paul Fowle, who is my partner in crime, ex-banker, ex-copper, but also a man of the world. So there we are. Oh, it's only 8:25. I've got 5 minutes left. I can't get to it. Well, I got to my dentist, and he plugged a couple of holes in my teeth, and luckily I didn't have to have any yanked out. It was absolutely marvelous. But I get to my my hairdresser not until next Monday, and I'm as shaggy as I'll get out. No wonder people who looked at me as I lay in my sleeping bag on the streets saying a penny for the guy thought that I must be absolutely genuine because my hair is so long and it's completely, oh my darling, I just can't do anything with it. Too damn true, I can't. And I've got to wait until next Monday before Andrew can get at it and start to put it into shape. That's why I wear my hat in the most ridiculous circumstances. I even go to bed in my hat, just in case, well, who knows? No. We mustn't go that route, must we? It's 26 minutes past 8 o'clock. And those of you who are not familiar with us, in Mirador Television is a small television operation, but it is bigger than its boots. It's the biggest little television station in the world. And although we, at the moment, not doing it, we have the infrastructure, and we will be, come July, be streaming again, and we stream to everywhere. There is nowhere in the world that you cannot get Mirador Television. On smart TVs, on smartphones, on the web, and so on. And hopefully, perhaps before the year is out, we might even have a little terrestrial outlet here in Lewis. Who knows? It is possible. It's just a question of enough hands and enough people and enough money. Always comes down to enough money. But there we are. That's Mirador Television. It's vital. It's alive. It's daft. It's nutty. And actually, I'm happy to say that there aren't many people that come through that door to work with us who aren't nutty. They have to be to work in this organization. But then that's what makes the world fun. And I hope that because I've been serious about age, about mental health, about homelessness, that it hasn't taken the fun out of things. But by the same token, as a society, we've got to come to grips with them. That's my point. And you want to take me on. Anytime you want to come on Mirador Television and debate with me, please do. If you're a politician, don't. Simply because they're too good at debate. I've never yet won a debate with a politician. That's the only good thing that they can do. But anyway, Mirador Television, and it's out of Lewis. We keep getting a fan from Patagonia and from other strange places in the world. And we do American programs, and some of our programs go out in the United States. So that's what Mirador is all about. It's 8:29. I'm going to go out this morning on the the little thing that we have. Who are we? Why are we? And how's your father? So here we are, and tomorrow, or later in today, Terry's first program will be going out. Stephen Catlin will probably be in at some stage today or tomorrow, and if he is, then watch out for Stephen's programs, because they are full of information about local governance, information which you wouldn't get anywhere else. Shall I say Toodle Pip? No, I will after this. Well, homeless I may be, but generosity is my first name. If you ever want to share my ice cream as I have it for dessert, you're always welcome to a spoonful. Till tomorrow. Toodle pip. Daft. We are daft. But why shouldn't we be? Ah, yes. Ta-ra.